Is your self-centered, self-reliant, and self-centered approach keeping you from finding true stability in life?
Well, in this episode, we'll share a process for increasing your emotional intelligence while walking through recovery. Well, it's July 17th, and it's time for another double shot from My Sober Truth. I like this, surrender and self-examination. As we were researching and getting ready for this episode, we kept running across this newer concept, these newer terminologies, and we wanted to share some of those today. You know, back in counseling days, we used to talk about emotional bandwidth. The people that have been through trauma,
Right.
A lot of their emotional bandwidth was diminished. They didn't have the ability to trust, be trusting,
Absolutely.
etc. The newer phrase that we're hearing pop up, do a little internet search if you want to, guys, is emotional intelligence, not bandwidth. And so they're both pretty much the same thing, that ability to process, recognize, respond to emotional situations in an appropriate way.
Right.
And, you know, when we're walking through an addiction, no matter what it is, we're dealing with emotional baggage, and we're using our DOC, our drug of choice, to quiet or still those emotions.
Exactly.
But we know, if we're sitting here at this table, obviously, we learned along the way that didn't work.
No.
You know, it works for a season, but then the side effects get bad.
Yep.
And so there has to be a process in recovery of reclaiming emotional ground, growing that emotional bandwidth, increasing your emotional intelligence. And so share with me, Sean, what was your process? What is your process for increasing that emotional intelligence?
Well, you hear me talk about this a lot. It's practice. Doing it. It is taking this knowledge that you're gaining, reading books, watching video, whatever it is that you're doing to gain your knowledge of how you want to live your life, of what you want to do. And then you got to put it into practice. Okay. You know, early on, initially, I had a hard time asking for help from a higher power, you know, coming in with the grudges that I carried against church and organized religion. I had to find my way, you know, kind of feel my way through how I didn't know what a spiritual relationship was going to look like for me. Right. So coming in, one of the first things I do remember doing is being able to ask a higher power to help me share my story. And it's something that was suggested to me from my sponsor, you know. Ask your higher power to help guide your words, to help guide your shares, so that you can reach people. You know, you want to say the right things, you want to do the right things, and you want to be able to take this story. For me, I wanted to be able to take this story that was such a dark place in my life and make something decent and useful out of it. And that's really kind of what this whole journey of recovery has been. You know, you learn to surrender. You learn to self-examine. I learned that everything that I do, there's something that goes along with it that later in the day I can step back and maybe re-examine it and take a look at how could I have done that better? How could I have been more of service? How could I have done this or that? But initially I had this really hard time asking for help from a higher power that I didn't believe in.
Right.
So I initially started, that was one of the first things I started with, was please help guide my words. Please help put the right words into my heart so that I can speak them to help people where they need to be helped. I want to meet people at their level. I want to be able to communicate with people in a meaningful way. So that was one of the original things that I did, and it worked.
Right.
I feel like it worked. You know, places that, you know, soon enough, I had meetings want me to speak at. You know, people would ask me to come speak at their meeting. And so as that worked, and I felt like I was doing okay, I kept asking for help with that. But then I started saying, well, if this worked, maybe it'll work in this other part of my life. So it started opening me up to expand how I was going to walk through life spiritually. You know, and then as I've grown, I've had to learn to be cognizant of my own emotional intelligence and my own bandwidth. I do have a tendency to tell everyone yes. I want to do everything that I can do to try to help folks. So I have this tendency to say yes, maybe more than I should. I've gotten much better at it, but I want people to like me.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to be very careful of that I'm not overextending my bandwidth.
Right.
I have to be very careful because that can lead me back down a road that I don't want to travel down anymore. It can lead me back down a road to possible relapse one day.
Right.
So I couldn't, in the very beginning, before I started all this, I didn't trust myself. It's one of the reasons I started asking God for help with
Right.
sharing, is because I didn't trust myself at all.
Right.
And because I didn't trust myself, I also didn't trust anyone else. Well, this spiritual journey has opened these doors in my life for me to be able to trust myself and realize that maybe my instincts weren't all bad. I just was really bad at choosing.
Right.
Maybe my instincts weren't as bad as I thought they were. I thought every instinct I had was wrong. Well, come to find out, I can trust myself a little bit more, especially when I'm sober.
Right.
And I've got some time away from my last mind-altering substance. So now I can trust myself. Well, it starts opening up the fact that, I never trusted anyone when I was getting high. Well, I didn't trust anyone because I didn't trust myself.
Right.
Now that I'm trusting myself, I'm learning that there are people out there, good people in the world that I can trust and I can open up to and trust them with my feelings and what I've got going on in my life. So it's a process, and it's all, the title, surrender and self-examination. That is the process.
Right.
You
Exactly.
surrender it to your higher power, and then you go back and self-examine.
Right.
Why did I do this? What is the reason why I did this? What can I do to do it better next time?
Exactly. You said it, what's the process? Work the steps.
Absolutely.
And when you get done working the steps,
Do them again.
do it again.
Yeah.
Because life is constantly evolving. New challenges are coming up every day, and there's
Absolutely.
always a new opportunity to stumble and fall.
Right.
But as we keep these things in the forefront, we keep working on ourselves. It's amazing how, as we work on ourselves, we're working on the relationships in our lives at the
Right.
same time. So I love it.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up, I'm going to pose a question to our viewers like we always do. And so folks, tell me this. What are you doing to increase your emotional intelligence as you walk through recovery? Take a few minutes, put your answer down in the comment section below. We can't wait to read what you have to say today. And on that note, for My Sober Truth, I'm Mark.
Hey, and I'm Sean, and here's hoping that today you stay drunk with success. Love y'all.
Hey folks, thanks for watching. If you're thirsty for another round, then belly on up to mysobertruth.com and click on the double shot button today. There you'll find the encouragement, inspiration, and support that'll help you stay clean, on track, and prospering in every area of your life. Take a moment to subscribe to this channel, and if you got a minute, stick around. Let's watch another video together.